This is College Football 26 Dynasty, but it starts in 2030. We just got to 500 subscribers, so thanks to everyone that's been along for the ride so far. We're still a young channel, just 2 months into getting this thing started, so getting to 500 subscribers this early has been great. We're going to continue to grow the channel as we go, and we're going to do expanding some things as we get into these next couple levels of the channel. For now, we will have a video coming out tomorrow that's going to kind of talk about some of the new things that are going to be in the channel, and I'm also going to be doing a live tomorrow night, Thursday, February 5th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern time for 2 hours. We're going to try to do lives every Thursday night at 6 Pacific for 2 hours and just kind of keep that going through. So make sure that you check that out. I'll also post some things on the channel and I'll remind you all tomorrow, but we will be there every Thursday night doing either conference realignment videos, maybe we'll do some road to glory. We're going to do some different things in there just to kind of interact with everybody and give everybody a chance to, have some more videos, some different kinds of videos from this channel. But for today, we're going to do something that people have been talking about in the comments, which is we're kind of stuck in this rut of doing 3-year sims, and we could change so much with conference realignment and all those kind of things, but we see the same teams generally in the playoffs. We see some surprises here and there, but for the most part, we're seeing the same teams. So yesterday we did a 4-year sim with conference realignment and all that kind of stuff, or with promotion and relegation. Check that one out if you haven't seen it yet. But today we're going to actually start our sim in 2030 after 4 years of simming, to see what the changes are, and then we're going to do our usual 3-year sims to see what is different from there. We didn't do any conference realignment aside from the usual things that we do for the 2026, putting the teams in the Pac-12, into the Mountain West, and into the Sun Belt. This time we did put Louisiana Tech into the Sun Belt because they're going to be there by 2027, so by the time we get started on this, they'll be there. But let's go ahead and sim up to 2030, and then we'll go from there. All right, here we are in 2030, and somehow we've survived 5 years. It was a good first 2 years, but it hasn't been super great for UNLV since then. But at least we've made it this far. So let's take a look at college football history and see what has happened over the past 4 years. So Clemson won the first 2 national championships over Ole Miss, then a 16-0 season over USC. USC came back the next season, had their own 16-0 season, and they beat Miami 50-20 in the national championship game. Miami then came back and avenged their loss, beating Georgia, and then Texas beat BYU, which is a different one, and Texas is currently being coached by Dan Lanning. So, interesting things that have happened so far. Who is our preseason top 25 for this year? Texas starts out on top. Georgia, who was the defending runner-up, or the runner-up the year before. Miami was the national champion the year before, so nothing super crazy. We got Florida State back in the top 12. All these teams are pretty normal to be in the top 12 that we see. BYU being the defending runner-up last year, is number 16, probably the most interesting team at that high up. Stanford in the top 25 to start the season is pretty good. Houston in the top 25 to start the season is pretty good, so it's all pretty good. Let's go to the first CFP poll and see what it looks like in 2030. All right, we got some interesting things going on in our first CFP poll of 2030. Duke and Houston in the top 7, along with Auburn and TCU, all undefeated teams in the top 10. Houston's probably the most interesting one. We saw them ranked in the top 20 to start, but we haven't seen Houston in the playoff too much, so that's interesting. TCU is also pretty good to be up there. Arizona State up there, Nebraska. Nobody's super surprising. I mean, Boise State, San Diego State, Kentucky, Syracuse, and Jacksonville State all at the bottom here is not bad at all. Jacksonville State especially, because we see a move out of Conference USA. Syracuse is pretty good. Okay, I do like what we've got going on here. Let's sim to the conference championship games and see what it looks like there. So I don't know if I said it. We are going to be doing best team, best conference, 3 years, all the kind of things that we usually do, just moving it forward a little bit in the timeline. Let's look at these conference championship games. So Clemson, who was a 2-time national champion during the time that we didn't watch, as well as Miami was a national champion. They're both facing off in the ACC championship game. We have a number 4 undefeated Houston team taking on TCU, who's number 11 in the Big 12 championship game. That is a big game. Got a Pac-12 championship game between Boise State and San Diego State, which almost certainly will send the winner to the college football playoff. World's largest outdoor cocktail party SEC championship game. Jacksonville State did have a couple losses at the end of the season, so the G5, it's kind of interesting. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it should be 5 here, and that should probably be the end of it. Let's look at the top 25. I don't think that there's really any way that anyone else gets a automatic qualifier. Yeah, Boise State is most likely our team that gets in. Pitt could sneak in. They're not in a conference championship game, though, so it'll be harder for them to sneak in with TCU losing. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that all turns out. LSU, USC, Oklahoma, Florida. These are Oklahoma, Ole Miss. Those are teams we didn't see in a conference championship game, so we should see them in the playoff as well. But let's see what the actual bracket looks like. We've been getting so many Georgia wide receiver Heisman Trophy winners. Ronald Cleveland, that's definitely not that guy's name. That's definitely not that guy's hair. But, you know, it's college football 26, so that's what you get. He gets a Heisman, almost 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns on less than 100 catches. That's a Heisman Trophy winner in 2030, apparently. We didn't get to a bowl game, 5-7 this year. I think we haven't gotten fired yet, but it might be on the way here for Dan Mullen. What does our bracket look like? So San Diego State ends up getting in after beating Boise State in the Pac-12 championship game. Houston does get a top 4 seed, so those are probably the most interesting things to have happen there. It's San Diego State versus Miami, with the winner taking on Georgia. Who was our defending national champion? It was Texas. Texas did not make it back in. Penn State and USC in an all Big Ten matchup. Winner takes on Clemson, who's been one of the dominant teams so far. Outside of our video, we're going to only do best team in the seasons that we're actually watching, so those wins don't count. Michigan ended up getting the win over, I think it was Penn State in the Big Ten championship game, so they take on Ole Miss with the winner taking on Florida. Oklahoma and LSU, winner takes on Houston. We're really rooting for a Houston-San Diego State national championship game, but we'll see how that actually works out. We're going to sim this first round. San Diego State basically gets clobbered in the first round, 31-10. Miami moves on to play Georgia in the Rose Bowl. USC gets the win by 2 touchdowns over Penn State. They will face off against Clemson. Michigan gets crushed by Ole Miss, so that's an all-SEC matchup there. And then in the other all-SEC matchup in the first round, LSU gets the win. They'll take on Houston. So we have what? 4 SEC teams, 2 ACC teams, 1 Big Ten team, and 1 Big 12 team in our quarterfinal, with 2 undefeated teams in Clemson and Houston in the Sugar Bowl and Peach Bowl, respectively. And almost chalk, aside from Miami getting the upset by 2 over Georgia in the Rose Bowl. So it's Clemson and Miami, 2 of our best teams so far. They had a matchup in the ACC championship game. It'll be a rematch in the Orange Bowl, basically a home game for Miami. Miami's looking to get revenge over Clemson, who has not lost yet this season. Houston also has not lost yet this season. They got the 3-point win over LSU. They'll take on Florida in the Cotton Bowl. So it's 2 ACC teams, an SEC team, and a Big 12 team moving on to the semifinal. The SEC went 1-3 in the quarterfinal there, with the only win being against itself, with Florida beating Ole Miss. Houston comes up short. Actually, both undefeated teams find their first loss in the semifinal. Houston by 20, Clemson by 7. So it's Miami and Florida in an all-Florida matchup, facing off in Atlanta for our first national championship of our video. And Miami gets the 2030 national championship. They beat Florida 27-10. So they have been very good in our sim so far in our video. They get the first national championship. The ACC really has a dominant first season, with both Miami and Clemson getting to the semifinal there. They take the lead in the best conference. Miami takes the lead in the best team in the video. Most impressive team in the video so far, it's got to be Houston, but we'll see if they can keep it up. San Diego State is also in the running there. We're going to kind of nail all that stuff down in the video tomorrow. All right, so we're back at the top 25, or the CFP here. We got TCU back up in there. They didn't end up making the CFP last year. They ended up losing to Houston in the Big 12 championship game. Houston got the number 2 seed, made it to the semifinal. We might be on a collision course for them yet again, but Arizona State might have something to say about that as well. Big matchup in this week with Arizona State going to Houston. UConn is up there as an independent. They only have 1 loss, by 12 on the road to Tennessee. Pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. I mean, actually very easy schedule. Ball State is a pretty good team this year, 7-1. So this is a big game actually coming up against Ball State. But other than that, I mean, they have terrible teams. Kent State's 4-4, and then 1-7 and 0-7 at the end. Could they stay alive in the CFP race if they get all of those wins? That would be kind of a shocking team to get in there. San Diego State's back up in the top 25. We'll see somebody shoot up from the G5, because UConn would not get an automatic qualifier. They're still an independent. So Our defending national champion Miami's in the top 6. Florida is also in the top 11. They were in the national championship game last year. And Clemson is not up there. Clemson's in the at 17. So we'll see how that actually ends up shaking out. But I want to go to the conference championship games because I want to see what happens with the Big 12. We're 5-7 again. I don't know how long Dan Mullen's going to survive, but he has survived so far. All right. So Arizona State and TCU is the Big 12 championship game. I don't know what happened to Houston. Seems like maybe they lost to. They have at least 2 losses because they're not in the Big 12 championship game. So we'll see how that all turned out. Ball State may or may not. They were 7-1, so they looks like they have lost to UConn. So maybe UConn is in the field. We get a rematch of last year's Pac-12 championship game. San Diego State would have to win to get a Pac-12 team in because otherwise probably Louisiana or Ball State jumps up there. Maybe even UTSA, depending on how things all shake out. 1 versus 2 in the SEC, 3 versus 14 in the Big 10. So we're missing a lot of teams in the top 10. Let's go look at what the top 25 looks like. UConn might very well get a first round bye. That's really good. Houston did have a second loss, but they're still going to be in the poll after they got that last win against at TCU in the final game. We might have 2 independents in there as well, depending on how it all shakes out, with Notre Dame at 11. So we got, okay, this is a pretty good poll. I'm curious to see, can UConn make a run here at the end? Are there any other teams that are maybe bubbling up? Ball State, UTSA, those are not really teams that are going to be coming over the top. Maybe Wisconsin is building up. Maybe Penn State is building back up. But UConn is a very good one. So let's go see what the bracket ends up looking like. Back-to-back Georgia wide receiver Heismans, and this time it's Dexter Dugans, which actually is more likely to be his name than the guy previous. This guy had 105 receptions, almost 900 yards, 18 touchdowns, more of a Heisman Trophy winning season. But how many wide receiver Heismans have there ever been? It's like Desmond Howard, who wasn't even really a wide receiver, and Devontae Smith. And now we got 2 in a row. I'm not exactly sure how that works out. But let's look at the CFP bracket. Georgia does get the number 1 overall seed, so that kind of makes sense. We get UConn and San Diego State in the first round. So we're at least going to get some pseudo G5 team at the very least into the second round. But I would have hoped to see them in different brackets. Houston is back and they'll host Notre Dame. TCU ended up winning the Big 12 championship game. They will host Florida, who was last year's runner-up. Miami didn't make it back in, so we won't have back-to-back champions. We get a Red River shootout in the 7-10 with the winner taking on USC. And that's kind of the most interesting things that we have going on there. I have to look at the Heismans and see how many have they given to wide receivers. They got another Georgia wide receiver in 2028. Why would you go anywhere other than Georgia if you're a wide receiver? They have 3 different Heisman Trophy winning wide receivers over the past 4 seasons. Like how does that happen? How does that actually happen? Yeah, I guess Travis Hunter, Travis Hunter won them. So 1, 2, if you want to count Charles Woodson was a return man. Desmond Howard, okay, so 3, 4. So there's been 4 going back to 1960, and now there's 3 in the past 4 seasons from the same school. I don't know. College Football 26. That seems like the realism might be falling out a little bit. Anyway, let's sim the first round. So UConn ends up getting past San Diego State by 7 in the first round after hosting them. They'll take on Clemson. We'll see if they can get that upset win. That would be pretty big there. TCU also gets the win over Florida. Houston gets the win over Notre Dame. And Oklahoma gets the win over Texas. So all of the favorites win. But I wouldn't say that Texas or TCU and Houston necessarily were favorites, and they got past. Well, Houston maybe. Houston has really established themselves, but TCU over Florida was a rough one because Florida was really good last season. So we'll see if TCU can take care of business against the number 1 seed Georgia. Houston against Tennessee. Tennessee just lost to Georgia in the SEC championship game. Our third SEC team is Oklahoma. They'll be taking on USC, who is our lone undefeated team. Then we've got 1 ACC team taking on our independent UConn. So what's that? 3 SEC, 1 Big 10, 2 Big 12, 1 ACC, and 1 independent in the quarterfinal. Houston's a pretty damn good team. They get the win by 14 over Tennessee. They'll take on USC, in the Fiesta Bowl. That is a really interesting matchup. USC and Houston, 2 versus 6 there. Clemson did get past UConn by 3, and TCU put up a fight as well. So both of those teams ended up losing by 3 when they're probably overmatched talent-wise. So we get Georgia and Clemson, USC and Houston in the semifinals. 2 straight semifinal appearances and 2 straight losses for both Houston and Clemson. Both teams have come up short in the past 2 seasons. Georgia gets to win 41-33. USC gets to win 24-14. 1 versus 2 in the national championship game. USC is looking for the 16-0 undefeated season. This national championship game is in Glendale, so they have a little bit of an advantage there over Georgia. But Georgia is 14-1, number 1 in the country, so not that much of an advantage. Poor Houston, poor Clemson. Houston definitely is on the list for most impressive team because they've gotten 2 straight wins. I know they're technically a Big 12 team, but of course they're not the highest level Big 12 team. Even the Big 12 is like undermatched in college football 26 compared to the top 3 conferences. I think that the Big 12 is probably a better conference now than the ACC is, outside of maybe Miami, but in real life. But in college football 26, the ACC is a very, very high level conference, probably even outranking the SEC and the Big Ten in a lot of ways. And USC ends up with the undefeated season. They win 42-36 over Georgia in Glendale. They end up kind of keeping it together, I guess. They almost let Georgia back into the game. They were up 28-7 going into the second half. Georgia scores 29 points in the second half and almost get back into the game, but USC ends up holding them off. They get the second national championship of the video, give the Big Ten their first national championship of the video, and put them maybe slightly behind ACC for best conference in the video so far, but still up there above the SEC as of now. We're going into our third and final season. Can Houston break through? Can we get San Diego State to win a college football playoff game? Can we get any other interesting teams? UConn maybe back in, or what else is going to happen in this final season of the video? All right, we got a couple familiar faces, a couple new ones. Alabama and LSU are teams that we haven't seen last year. LSU was in the first year that we watched, but not last year. Alabama has been up in the top 10, but we haven't seen them actually make the playoff yet. TCU, who won the Big 12 last year and has kind of been hovering around, does end up in the top 4 here after just getting a big win over Houston, who looks to be struggling this year, unfortunately, after making 2 straight semifinals. Very unlikely that they find their way back in after that loss to TCU. But TCU, just a big matchup against Cincinnati. Maybe this Baylor game ends up ranked by the time that it gets to it, but Cincinnati and TCU is a big game for the Big 12. UConn is back up there. They got a win in the first round last year. Can they close it out? They have 2 tough games. Oklahoma and Miami. They had a pretty cake schedule last year. They've lost earlier in the year at Mississippi State. They have to go to Oklahoma, and they're hosting Miami to close out the season. So we'll see if UConn can make it back in. If they do, if they win out, which would get them in, they're definitely going to be a top 4 seed, unlike last year. Arizona State, we've seen kind of toying around up there. Missouri is back up there for the first time. Cincinnati, who we saw up there. FIU is undefeated currently, number 21 in the country. They should have a pretty easy schedule to close out. This Jacksonville State game is probably the tough one. Other than that, they should be able to finish out undefeated 12-0, which should get them the G5 spot if they win their conference championship. San Diego State, who has been our G5 representative so far, is back in the top 25. Unfortunately, we're going to miss out on Houston, which has kind of been the most fun part of the video so far. But can UConn hold it out? If UConn can pull it out, I could see them winning the national championship because they got to play a couple top 10 teams to close out the season. 6-6, and we get our contract extended. This is like the 10th year he's been there, so I don't know. The first time we make a bowl game, we get the contract extended. So what can you say? We have quite a few good G5 teams here. FIU and San Diego State are both going to get in with a win in their conference championship game. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. These will get 5 and 6, but Memphis is at 13 with a win over 21. They should be able to jump 12 that we don't see here. Maybe even jump 10 when they get the loss here. Ball State with a win. Maybe they can jump somebody else as well. We could get as many as 4 G5 teams in based on what we're seeing there. Let's go look at this top 25. Yeah, so Ohio State has to play Penn State lost recently. Tennessee's already got 3 losses, so one of these teams, specifically probably Memphis, should jump over Tennessee and get at least the 12 seed. But I think with 2 wins here, I mean, if they're 12-1, they should jump over Penn State and Tennessee and get the 11 and 12 spots, assuming that we get wins out of FIU and San Diego State in their championship games. FIU should be hosting a team. Like, we're going to get a lot of good teams, or a lot of G5 teams here in the end. UConn ended up losing, I think, both of those games against Oklahoma and Miami. Yeah, they weren't even close in those games. So they were really, I mean, there's a good team. I think that if we kept simming, they would probably keep moving up, but either way, let's go to the bracket and see if those G5 teams end up getting in. Georgia wins another fucking Heisman. They have won all 3 Heismans in the time that we've been watching. They won a Heisman not the year before, but 2 years before we started. This time it's at least a quarterback. Dennis Odell goes for almost 5,000 yards and 48 touchdowns. Those are definitely Heisman Trophy winning numbers, but how is Georgia winning all of these Heismans and they have yet to win a national championship that we've been watching? They just lost last year. So yeah, we go to the Hawaii Bowl. UNLV, very good, very great. They're going to take on Temple there in the Hawaii Bowl with identical records. What does our bracket end up looking like? So FIU is going to host. FIU is the only one that gets in. San Diego State lost. How does Alabama? FIU 13-0. They're going to host Alabama. The winner takes on Washington State, or on Washington. TCU also gets 13-0. They're going to host. I don't even give a shit. What happened here? What happened here? We had such a good setup, and San Diego State loses by 7. They get knocked out. Ball State loses. They get knocked out. Memphis gets the win, and somehow they don't jump over. Where was Alabama the week that we... Where was Alabama the week that we looked at this? We can't look at the weeks before. They lost their last 2 games of the season, and somehow they get in over Memphis. The only win is against Tennessee. Oh, I guess LSU too. What? Memphis is 12-1. They're a conference champion. They have a loss to Charlotte. They beat USF. They beat Charlotte. I mean, I guess Alabama's is better, but like slightly better as far as the wins, but conference champion at 12-1 should, so stupid. We should have FIU, Memphis in the first round. So FIU really needs to put their big boy pants on and get a couple wins here. Miami and Florida is a rematch of our first national championship game. The winner takes on Clemson. Clemson has been in 2 straight semifinals. Can they get over the hump? Tennessee, USC. USC is our defending national champion. Winner of that takes on our other 13-0 team, TCU. Then Penn State and Ohio State will face off to go against Georgia with the winner there. What a disappointing turn of events in that conference championship week with everybody not showing up. All right, let's sim the first round. And as expected, FIU gets crushed in the first round, 38-17. Alabama will take on Washington. Florida gets revenge over Miami for the national championship 2 years ago. They'll take on Clemson to see if they can stomp out the ACC. The ACC has the first national championship, and Clemson's gone to a couple of the semifinals, so they're in the lead for best conference in the video. But the Big Ten has defending national champion USC moving on into the second round. Washington's already in the second round, and Ohio State also moves on to the second round after beating Penn State. So it's 1, 2, 3 SEC teams: Georgia, Florida, Alabama. 3 Big Ten teams: Ohio State, USC, Washington. 1 ACC team and 1 Big 12 team. Both of those are undefeated by teams in Clemson and TCU, respectively. Let's see who moves on to the semifinal. 2 of the 3 Big 10 teams move on, but maybe not the one that you were expecting. USC ends up falling to TCU. TCU is now 14-0, undefeated. This is the 3rd straight time we've had a Big 12 team from Texas in the semifinal with a chance to go to the national championship game. Get TCU, get over the top, as Houston could not in previous seasons. Ohio State gets the upset over Georgia. Georgia in the Peach Bowl. So it's TCU and Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. Up top, we've got Washington, who gets past Alabama, and Florida, who got the upset win over Clemson, knocking Clemson out of their third straight semifinal, or keeping them from getting to the third straight semifinal. That will be in the Sugar Bowl. So TCU, Ohio State, Washington, Florida, 2 Big Ten teams, one SEC team, and one Big 12 team. And we get the least interesting of all of the matchups. Florida and Ohio State will face off. Ohio State is looking, well, yeah, Ohio State wins. They give it to the Big Ten for best conference in the video. If Florida wins, the SEC probably ties for best conference in the video. It's probably a 3-way tie for the top. Best team in the video, Miami made it to all. No, they didn't make it to the second one. USC didn't make it to the first one. Ohio State, this is the first one that we've watched. It's probably Florida if they get the win here. Florida be best team in the video. Otherwise, we'll probably put a tie between Miami and, well, probably between Miami and USC for best team. Oh, no, it goes, yeah, Miami and USC would be the tie for best team in the video. Let's see what happens. And it's Florida that gets the win. 2032 national champions. Florida gets the win 36-34 over Ohio State. They'll be the best team in the video as they were the runner-up in the first season. They made it to all 3 college football playoffs that we watched, and they get the national championship in the final season. I would say it's a tie between the Big Ten and the ACC for the best conference in the video, because they both had winners, runners-up, and teams that made it to the semifinal multiple times in a year, where the SEC did not have a season where they had multiple teams in the semifinal that we watched. So Florida gets the win. They get the best team in the video. The ACC and the Big Ten tie for best conference in the video. We all get disappointed because we didn't see a G5 win, even though Florida State hosted, our Florida International hosted a game. We didn't see one of our Big 12 teams out of Texas break through. So we got to figure out a way to kind of move things around. But this was a test video to see how much things change if you go further on into the video. I would say there's slight changes, but we can definitely do better. So we're going to continue to try to move things around. Like I said, thanks for getting us to 500 subscribers. There is going to be a video tomorrow kind of announcing the next stage of the channel, what you guys can all look forward to with the upgrades as we get further on. And of course, we're not going anywhere. We're going to continue to make content as much as we can throughout the weeks. Make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that you like the video, and we will check it tomorrow.